everyone to the next session in the Community Partnerships and Action stream. I have the good pleasure of introducing Kerry Robson from Gecko Clan Landcare Network. The title of her talk is Who Kept the Dogs Out? Take it away, Kerry.
Thank you. Thank you all, and thank you for the invitation, being able to speak and present on the project that we did. I think there is a song about this, but we won't go into singing that. This project was about an issue that is there within our community. We didn't really realise, but this community is about how we deal with it and how we went through a process, because we had a problem and the problem was there. We just didn't know how to go about it. But what it started from was this one opportunity, then it grew bigger and bigger. But the whole process is about how we take people on the journey. And I think also the value is how Landcare is the go-to as a group. If anyone needs to know something or need to get something done, where do they go? They go to Landcare, because we are on the ground and we have that ability to be able to engage so many people. So this is about a journey of going on that and how we were able to utilise and engage with people and what we were able to do and have the outcome. So thank you for being a part, and hopefully you'll enjoy this process. So it all starts, as usual, with coming together. So a problem that one of our Landcare members, Terry Ring and Jan Ring, identified that there were wild dog problem. They were producers up in Upper Ryan's Creek, where I will show you where they are located. But the process was that they were in the sheep game. They were unable to go lamb down because every time they were lambing, their loss from wild dogs was so great. So Terry was struggling with this problem there. And as we know, a lot of these issues are also part of mental health. So Terry was unable to lamb down. He was just buying in ewes and wethers, shearing them and turning them off. So Terry had to completely change his system of farming to adapt to what was being the issue. So we met together, and in this group here is the first part of the journey of who I had to engage to be able to start the process to go down that journey. So, whoops, I knew I was going to do that, sorry. There. So in this here, we have Terry and Jan. This is at their place. This is Tony Kubel he's our Landcare coordinator from our Catchment Management Authority, so he was a part of it. We also had our local member, Steph Ryan. She came along to our first meeting. We had our other farmers there, and also we had our council member there. So we thought we had to start the process, so we needed to bring the people together to have that conversation. And with every conversation, there's always a map on the table to be able to point out where the issue was, where we need to contain it, and how we could work on it. So this was very much that first step about coming together, talking about the problem, and then trying to plan our next step. At this stage, we really had no funding, we didn't have any direction, but we knew we had an issue and we knew we had to start working in that direction. So, as I said, where there's a map, there has to be a good plan. So this is the area that I work in. This is called the Gecko Clan Landcare Network. This is a large area of 13 Landcare groups that I work, and we are very much farming based. Most of our Landcare members are all pretty much farmers, so the issues that they have are very much farming related, but also they're very much under their biodiversity and other engagement with community as well. These people are also the people there that are the CFA members, and they're the first ones there for a bushfire, floods. So this is a really strong community that we work within, and our farmers are, as I said, diverse. We're dry land farming, and we're also cropping and sheep with a bit of dairy and a bit of orchard in it as well. So you can't really see. So the star where you'll see there is Upper Ryan's Creek, and it's a Mollyula Tatong Landcare group, or Molly Tat as we call it for short, and that was where the issue was that we had. My network that I work in sits within 3 shires to 4 shires that I have to engage and work with, and they became a big part of this whole story as we go through. where we work. But we're down in Victoria, and I think we may have had less rain than you up here in New South Wales. This was a map which defines where the dogs are being taken out. To the left over here is Terry's area. So Terry Ring lives in the Upper Ryans Creek, but this area here is in the other part of the northeast, and every triangle is an area where a dog has been taken out or trapped or eliminated within the area. So this became a big part of where the dogs are moving from one part. They'll move from here across to here and track down, and vice versa. So the dogs are always on the move, and the issue was always there, and it was coming up that it wasn't just our area, it was another area as well. But what we were doing was how we could link these in and work it as a problem together. So what we needed was to do, we had to put an opportunity where we could come together and work as a group. So what happened in the lead up to this in 2019, the Benalla and Wangaratta and Shire councils were declared drought impacted, and there was funding through the federal government that allowed us to be able to apply. Us meaning the councils. Landcare was unable to apply for this funding directly. It had to go from the federal government to the council. So the council came to us, our first local Benalla council, and said, Kerry, we can apply for it, but we can't deliver it. We don't have the skill sets, nor the ability, nor the staff to be able to do that. So if we apply for this funding, can you deliver the project? And of course we said yes, because it was what that was going to do was be able to fund the project, but it also funded not just wild dog fencing, it also funded upskilling our farmers in chemical rebates, chemical ACUP courses. So we looked at it as not just one thing that we could offer our whole community. It was going to be a multi-layered project that we could deliver. So this funding was allowed us to be able to apply for wild dog. It was the first time it had seen any of the grants that we could apply for wild dog funding. So we jumped on it. So my role was to be able to bring the recipe together of what we needed to get the quotes. The other great thing about this project that it was always going to be funded to support the community as well. So whatever we did, the money was always going to be spent back into that community, and that was a big focus of the federal government funding, was that it was to support the community through coming out of a drought in all avenues. So not just the landholders that were going to be a part of this, but also the community was going to be a part of it and to be able to be funded. So we were able to identify the landholders that would fit into this project. We were able to define the problem. Of course, the problem was that the impact of what wild dogs were doing on the financial income to our farmers, and also the mental health of those farmers as well. So that was another big part of it. The project was managed by us. So the council said, again, we've got the money, but can you deliver it? Can you come up with that recipe of what's needed? Can you spend that money so it actually gets out to where it needs? In that part was also engaging all the other partners that had to come on that. For us to achieve what we wanted for our farmer and our landholder, we had to be able to know who to go to. And again, that's a skill that Landcare has, that no other agency has that ability to be able to knock on someone's door and say, can you assist me in an issue that I've got? And our one biggest challenge was working with our state authorities, DELP, in being able to get our permits that we needed to be able to deliver. So that would have been one of our biggest challenges, engaging those partners. Supported by the lands, so each of this project was, the funding was going to go to in putting the fence up, but the landholders had to put the fence up themselves. So that was their in kind. That gave them ownership and responsibility, and it really made them proud of what they wanted, that they wanted to achieve this. They knew if they built it to the best standard, they were going to get the results that they wanted. We also looked at the idea that we needed to support our wild doggers. So we're very lucky that the wild dogger that was a part of the project, who's employed by DELP, was a part of it, Scott Stowe. He was a big part of that project, and to support him, we also put cameras to help monitor the problem of the wild dog problem. So the next step was, the project, yes, the governance and the reporting, where there's always good things, bad things come, you have to do a report. But again, we were able to do that because we'd had management and control over the project. It was easy to be able to pull up that reporting data and information. These were the fences that we put up. As you would see, this was what we wanted, an outcome of these wild dog fences. So the fence with the tree, as I said, our biggest challenge was dealing with DELP. Because we had a permit. We had to apply for a wild dog fence permit. So some of our farmers, as I say, they say farmers sometimes are not that into biodiversity, but our landholder here was right in the idea that we wanted to take down as less trees as we could to be able to still have an outcome that we wanted. And then, as I said, the country that we're working in is up and down, it's in gullies, it's in bushland, it was really rugged terrain, and I was very jealous of when you look at most wild dog fencing out in the flat countries, all you have to do is get a straight line. Here, we had to work with nature to be able to get our outcome. So again, it's that Landcare can, and as I said before, it's us being able to go and engage with all those partners to be able to get the end result that we know that our community wants from us and the Landcare and the outcome. So the funding came from the federal government. It was the right opportunity at the right time, so we were able to get that and run with it and deliver that. Our Benellis Council and our Wangaratta Council had the foresight to be able to come to me and say, Kerry, can you deliver on this? Can you bring that information together? Yes, we can. We can share what we've got. We can sit with you and help write that other application. The Wangaratta Council put in $160,000 of funding for the project. The Wangaratta Council applied for $600,000, and a part of $300,000 of that was wild dog fencing over that. And the state government was been able to go to our DELP and say, work with us, understand where the farmers are coming from, we understand your rules and regulations, but we've got an outcome and we need this outcome. So we need to work together to be able to deliver that and knock on doors. This was the other part of the recipe, I suppose, is knowing the people to talk to about what you wanted. So this is a group of farmers up at Carbor, and they are there telling me what they want out of this fence. This was the second round through the Wangaratta Council, and a big part of that was also talking to our people that were going to supply the material. So we had to have Waratah on the same page as us and Gallagher, and as we know, Gallagher is the supporter of our Landcare, this event, and we're very lucky. But they are the two key components that made that fence the right fence. Without that, them working with us as a team as well, sitting at the table, I wouldn't have been able to come up with that. But I couldn't have done this without, again, going to the farmers and the community and saying, what do you want? I can make it happen, but I need you to tell me. And again, it's that continuous bit about the ability of us being able to bring people together and talk about it. So these, all credit, I wouldn't have been able to achieve what I'd done without these farmers telling me what they wanted. I'm the person who can make it. I'm the middleman or the middle person for that job. So how we measured our success and what the outcome was, 22 landholders participated in the funding for that project. 20% rebate, and as I said, every one of them put up either 3 kilometres of fencing, 2 or 1, in pretty rugged terrain. So my job was easy. I organised it. They had to put the fence up. So they made it. We had 2 field days in the middle of COVID, so that was quite amazing to get that done. And a little secret there, I did tell them that we could only have a set number. Don't tell anyone, you're only allowed to come to this field day. Little did I know that farmers operate on the idea, because all of a sudden there was all these people turning up. I'm going, but you didn't register, but we're not here, Kerry. How did you find out? Oh, Bob said it was a really good field day you should come to. But don't worry, I'm not here, so you don't have to count me. But I said, you do have to be counted. And but again, that's just that beautiful word of mouth. So we put in 48 kilometres of wild dog fencing. that went to this funding. The other big part of this, of course, we reduced the impact of livestock loss, and also we kept the dogs out. The other thing we found from this project is we also took off the pressure of grazing from deer and kangaroo. So this one style of fencing then became another asset. And so we've seen remarkable changes on a lot of these properties that have been heavily impacted by deer, kangaroo. But as I said, the dog one has made the biggest impact, because for us it's that mental health on our primary producers, taking that stress. None of them want to remove things or shoot things or kill. They'd rather find another way. And this way was the way of making sure that it ticked them for their mental health, for their future in farming, and for the wildlife and the biodiversity that they work in. So it was a really big part. This is two of our other farmers that had the second round of funding, and they put this up over steep country, but a husband and wife team, and they did a great job in making the completion of that. And their change of farming practice has completely changed in how they even manage their whole farm by this one sort of opportunity. So after all good projects, we have to have a finish and a presentation. And I think this sums it up for Terry Ring, that his long battle with trying to get the project up and trying to get something done, that the outcome happened. And for Terry, this is at Terry's property. We said, if you have funding, Terry, you'll need to put a sign up, and he's extremely proud that he has this sign up that supports what we can all do as a community when we work together, and how we have that opportunity as Landcare to be able to knock on any doors and say, with the right ideas and the right direction, we can all work together and have the outcomes that everyone wants. So thank you very much. Yep.
Don Bruce, Little River, New South Wales. The fence doesn't seem high enough. And why did you go electric, and what did you power it with?
Right. Power was through Gallagher Electric Units, power units. There's a short plug for them. So some were solar and some were mains, depending on what they could do. We went, the Gallagher, some of our farmers went to 210 centimetre steel post, others went for 180, so we never went less than 180. As you had seen, there were 4 hot wires on that fence, and the main secret was having that main hot wire at the bottom, right down as low as possible. That was also another part of the landholder's responsibility. They knew they have to maintain these fences, and that's the other reason why we needed good clearance on either side of those fences, so they can go along and spray to keep the grass load down. But the results of it, again, it was me asking them what's worked. They've all done fencing. Terry Ring actually used mesh to 210, so he was using mesh with a curved skirt on it, and to him that's what he wanted, and my job was to make it happen for him. Yep.
Congratulations on the fence, it was incredible. Just wondering if DALP were doing shooting in conjunction with the fencing efforts?
Yeah, so Scott Stowe, who is the wild dogger for that area, will do trapping and shooting if need be. So that's why we had him right from the beginning. We knew we needed him in there to tell us where the problems were and where he's seeing the dogs track and where the right fence should be. So, as I said, the fence is not going to solve the whole problem. You've got to do your baiting, you've got to do your trapping, you've got to have your fence. And these guys got hit by the fires bad. I think Jane was in 2019 or 20, massive bushfires went through. And what happened was they had to open up all the gates on their wild dog fencing. And what happened, the dogs all got in. So what happened, because the trucks needed to come in and out, so they then had to come in and do a big program to eliminate those dogs that had got back in those areas there.
Thanks, Kerry. Shellen Schofield here from Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry. I just want to say it was really great to hear the outcomes from some of these projects from a few years ago. Can you tell us how you measured the livestock loss before and after? You mentioned that there was a reduction, and I'd be really interested to know how that was measured.
Yeah, well, I suppose the biggest thing is Terry now has taken on purchased more land, and his son's come back on the farm, and they're now got ewes and lambing down. They've had their first batch of lambs this year. So I think the two things was that increase of lamb production, that Terry has been now able to go back as a breeder instead of as a trader. He can breed and have wool as well. So his increase of production was over another 30% of his increase of lambs. With the grazing, with the taking out the deer population as well, most of those farmers now are eliminated at least 30 to 40% of the deer that were coming in. So their grazing uptake for their livestock has increased, and to be able to drive around and see just cattle in the paddock and sheep instead of deer and kangaroos is just a really big booster morale-wise, and mainly with cattle prices, every blade of grass means something in the beef game.
Thank you. Let's do that again. Paula Shand from Holbrook Landcare. How are you managing ground-dwelling animals like echidnas and wombats moving through the fence?
Yeah, so some of our landholders have chosen, if they were focusing mainly on deer, they wouldn't do the bottom electric fence wire. And there will be an issue because when you've got it's that compensation of having that hot wire right at the bottom there. We found that we didn't have any loss, what we could see, because we also had the cameras on it. The dogs would track along the fence, so that's why we have to have that bottom wire. But what some of them were doing when it's echidna season and they're breeding, they're on the move, they'll turn the hot wire off at the bottom to allow the echidnas to go through. But pretty much everything else they were wanting to keep out.
I think there's room for just one more question if there's one remaining.
All good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it all. Thank you.